You can only think about what you already know. If you've ever written a paper on a topic that you barely understood, you might be familiar with the feeling. All the information of the world at your fingertips, but turning it into a rigorous treatment of the subject proves to be a slippery challenge. In the end, you come up with something, and maybe it's decent, but you can tell where it doesn't click. On the other hand, you write a paper that's in your niche, something you've been studying for years, and that's a polar opposite. The words flow, the structure is obvious, the ideas cohere on their own, and the result is a work you're proud of. And why not? That's an artifact of mastery, knowing your subject. There's no difference in access to information between the two papers, between the two subjects, only the difference between what's known and studied versus what's just read, what's had time to percolate and interconnect versus what's new and unprocessed. You can't make connections about topics that aren't already in your head. Every new fact threatens total dissolution of the fragile framework of knowledge under construction, unlike the storied achievements of a well-known subject, for which most new information is only a reinforcement, kind of building up of an established feature. In truth, we can generally turn something functional out of simply access to information. We can glean the new information well enough to make the case. But the outcome is still easily distinguished from mastery in almost all cases. We trade a more rigorous mental library for easy access to information, but it doesn't need to be a trade-off. We throw away one of the best mental tools by becoming satisfied with simply having the information at hand rather than digested. The struggle isn't new. Socrates, in Plato's Phaedrus, quoting an Egyptian myth, spoke of the art of writing as something that will, quote, create forgetfulness in the learner's souls, because they will not use their memories. They will trust to the external written characters, and not remember of themselves, unquote. This difficulty was later multiplied when the printing press made access to books a more generally useful method of storage than the mind, and the same problem was present in broader dimensions when the internet became widespread. Wikipedia became the questionable destination for every young student at that time, and before that, Encarta. The democratization of information meant a dissolution of siloed mastery. And then when mobile access to data became nearly ubiquitous, bar bets and trivia were easier than ever, and easier than ever to be wrong, when you could prove your supposed point with a post from Reddit or Twitter, information of a kind so damaging that we have a word to identify it: misinformation. In all of these cases, with the development of writing, with the printing press, with the internet, with mobile devices, we have managed, somehow or other, to retain the power of thought. Every generation complains about the failings of the next, yet we keep on chugging. Each generation is not without its geniuses. But to speak of geniuses may miss the mark. Technologies still sap our mental strength when they give us ease and progress in return. Day to day, we still miss the unknown unknowns when we aren't even yet aware of what they are. Outsourcing information storage with modern computing made it possible to discuss a topic without knowledge. Outsourcing conclusions with modern AI makes it possible to reach conclusions that aren't our own. An AI will gladly give you an answer, but how do you know if it's right? You can peek at the sources, but what does that tell you? You can't evaluate the truth of the answer if you lack the underlying knowledge that would let you judge whether the conclusion is sound. The often debated Google effect in psychology notes a decline in one's ability to retain information when the subject of that information is known to be something that's easily found. In other words, if I know I can find out the answer to a question, I'm less likely to remember it even when I read it, at least if I read it on Google. The replicability of this effect and its significance remain debated, as would, similarly, no doubt the suggestion that AI reinforces this same problem with perspectives and conclusions beyond information itself. But to debate the acuteness of the phenomenon is to miss its point. If we never bother to learn, then what we read, we still don't know, and we can't think about what we don't know. It's a weakness that we introduce to ourselves. It's a weakness with flip sides. Of course we gain from easy access to information. We'd be foolish to ignore it. But the utility of it doesn't render the problem moot. These problems already find reality in practical situations. Workplaces using AI for code increase their efficiency tenfold or 100-fold, but when it's implemented by a developer who isn't familiar with the architecture, things go boom. Often there are dependencies that go stale quickly. Some AIs miss this, but even if it's caught, the developer reviewing the code might not identify that it requires upkeep. Or perfectly logical code can hide an edge case that brings the system down, which remains unidentified if it's not reviewed, tested, and understood. In some cases, improvements in agentic AI coding systems can identify and resolve these issues, but it won't be perfect. The more complex the system is, the more errors can be introduced from unexpected vectors. And adding agentic AI makes the process faster, but it doesn't reduce the need for human oversight. Similarly, a student of physiology summarizing the textbook with AI might pass an exam with flying colors, but you wouldn't want him as your doctor if he doesn't know a heartbeat from a proton pump. It's hard to write a classroom test that represents real-world knowledge. AI and other technology can help you memorize the names of processes, identify anatomy on a diagram, write an essay about the recent developments in Alzheimer's treatment without ever understanding the details. Any information that isn't narrowly targeted by this learning process remains unknown. Gaps in knowledge mean gaps in understanding of the subject matter as a whole. It leaves the student incapable of addressing real-world problems if they don't neatly fit the pattern of study. When human life is involved, this becomes unacceptable. Fortunately, humans love to succeed and to become the expert, so we often grow beyond. But the regularization and normalization of this kind of narrow study is a threat to mastery if we're not, individually, very careful about our motivations and our results. On another similar line, automated businesses can generate passive income, but without an accurate knowledge of the problem space, it will quickly spin off the rails. It takes an intricate and living awareness of the nuances present only in complex reality to maintain success in automation. It's difficult, if not impossible, to keep an auto buyer, for instance, consistently in tune with the changes in an industry without manual intervention. And that intervention is provided by mastery. An agentic AI tasked with managing human resources may resolve many common workforce issues, but it's also likely to face reasonable pushback when applying similar platitudes to nuanced situations. All of these problems share the same roots. That these problems can sometimes be solved through further, more granular use of the tools of automation too is no answer. This is simply replicating the effort of thinking with additional steps. Technology, whether ink and pen or a modern LLM, can act as a powerful familiar, becoming the sufficiently advanced power that renders itself magic, prepping you for a presentation, diagnosing cancer when it's first barely even present, connecting communities across the globe in the blink of an eye, and propelling us to the cosmos. But now as ever, those who can overcome, those who succeed, those who make something of the technology of their era, are those who can synchronize themselves with it, and it with themselves, creating a supplement, an augment, rather than a replacement. This has always been the winning strategy in the long game. The long game, though, is more subtle than a winning presentation, a video that sells, or having the answer right on hand, any of these immediate concerns. Growth is fragile because it is easily distracted, disrupted, misdirected. Mastery is robust. It incorporates breadth and depth over years, an accumulation and integration of endless information. Mastery can be fragile too, in the face of change, and that's where the uses of technology do apply. Technology doesn't really know what will be the next right question to ask, but it can help you find it. Data is limited, but your ability to find new data isn't. Access alone isn't enough, but access can enable mastery. So don't believe everything you read. Don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything a robot tells you. But what you read, what you see, and what you learn from your technology can enable mastery.